Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nelo and you're watching Nelo Stitches. Today tutorial I'm making an off-shoulder bustier. So I have uploaded this video before. I don't know what happened and it disappeared. So I'm re-uploading it, okay? So and I also include the sewing because the first one I did not include the sewing. So here is the fabric I'm making use of. This is the front and the other one is the back panel. So to know how much fabric you're going to fold is your biggest measurement, which is the bust, divided by 2, divided by 4, plus extra 6 to 7 inches. Okay, so whatever is your biggest measurement, maybe it's your bust or your hip, your bust or your waist, anyone that is bigger for your half bodies. Okay, you divide that by 4, you add extra 6 to 7 inches to that. Okay, so that is what I did here. I divided the bust circumference by 4 and then I added extra inches here. Okay, as you can see, it's unfold. So to get your length, you minus 4 inches or 5 inches, whatever you are minusing for your off shoulder, you minus that from your half length. So if your half length is 16, you minus 4 from 16, that will give you 12. You add 1 inch to that, that will give you 13. So the length you'll be cutting is 13. So for me, I minused 4 from my half length. Okay, and the half length I'm working with is 14. So but I just added extra 2 inches just in case. Okay, so I'll be taking my measurement right now. So this is 14 inches for my half length. So I just added extra 2 inches. So I just cut out 16 inches. So here is my chest line, which is 7.5. And my bust point is 9. And the under bust I'm working with is 12. And then the waist I'm working with is 14. Then I added half inch for allowance. So I marked on 14.5. So I'm going to connect this here with a straight line like this. Okay, I added half inch to the waist, but the waist I'm working with is 14. I added half inch to that, making it 14.5. Okay, so here is my bust line. And here is my chest line. Okay, so this is chest line, bust line, on the bust line, and the waist line. Okay, so now I'm going to take my nipple to nipple measurement. The nipple to nipple measurement of this client is 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. Then I add half inch to that because I'm cutting directly on the fabric. So what I'm marking now is 4 inches. 7 divided by 2, 3.5 plus half inch for sewing allowance, making it 4 inches. So I'm marking on 4 right now because I'm cutting directly on the fabric. So I'm going to connect that from the waist up to the chest line. Okay, so let's move over to the neckline. To get our neckline, the neck width is your shoulder divided by 4, your shoulder divided by 2 plus, shoulder divided by 2 minus 1.5. Shoulder divided by 2 minus 1.5. So my client's shoulder is 14. 14 divided by 2 is 7. Then minus 1.5 from 7, I will have 5.5 left. So what I'll be marking here right now is 5.5. Your shoulder measurement divided by 2 minus 1.5. Shoulder divided by 2 minus 1.5. That is what I marked here. So now to get our armhole, I'm going to divide my bust circumference divided by 4. So the bust I'm working with is 33 divided by 4 is 8.25. So that is what I'm going to mark on the chest line here, 8.25. Then to that I'm going to add 2 inches for sewing allowance like this, and then I'll connect my armhole. Guys, you can use your free hand like I always say, but I have all this, so let me just be using it. Okay, so you can use your free hand. You can connect this straight or a little bit of curve like this. Okay, so now to get our curve, what you do is to minus your under bust from your bust circumference. Minus your under bust from your bust circumference. So the bust circumference I'm working with is 33. Under bust, round under bust is 27. 27 minus 33, I have 6 left, and that 6 I divided by 2 because this fabric is on fold, which gives me 3. So that 3 I marked 1 inch on the side, and this side I am marking 2 inches. 1 inch on the center front. This place I am connecting now, what I marked there was 1 inch on the waistline and on the underbust line, and then this side I'm connecting, I marked to 2 inches. That is the 3 inches I have. Okay, and then on the bust line you're going to come down by ½ inch and then go up by ½ inch also to avoid pointiness on the bust area, and then you connect this to the bust like this. Connect to the ½ inch here like this. Okay, take note of how I place my curve. If you don't have a curve, you're good at your free hand, you can do that. Okay, so like I said, you minus your under bust from your bust measurement. What I have is 6 inches. I divide that 6 inches into 2 because this fabric is on fold, and I have 3. You mark 1 inch on the center front and the remaining inches on the side. That is what I did here right now. And now for my princess dart, I'm going to connect from this neckline. I'm going to come down by 2 inches or 2.5 inches. Okay, I'm going to come down by 2 inches or 2.5 inches. For this client, I'm going to make use of 2 inches. So from the shoulder line there, the neck width there, I'm going to mark 2 inches downward like this. Okay, and from that point I'm going to connect to the ½ inch I came down or above the bust line, the ½ inch I marked above the bust line. Okay, so I'm going to connect like so, not too curvy, just a slight curve like this. So you can also use your free hand for this. So as you can see, our bust curve is formed already. Okay, so from that point I'm going to come down by 0.75. You can use 1 inch for this point. Okay, so I use 0.75 there, and I'm going to extend the same 0.75 upward like so, and I'm going to connect that to meet this line here. Okay, like this. Just place your curve ruler like this. You just connect to meet the first curve you made like so. This is to reduce the excess at the armhole. Okay, after you sew, so you reduce the excess at the armhole. So next you're going to blend the bust curve, the bust point area. Okay, you just blend it, and after that I'm going to be marking the neckline. Okay, so the neckline I'm working with is 7 inches. You place your tape on 4 like this because we are doing -4, and then you mark on 7 like so. Okay, and then you connect to the shoulder line. So I'm making use of a sweetheart neck. In this case, you can use any neck of your choice. So for this client, I used a sweetheart neck. So I'm just going to blend it like so, and we are done with the neckline. Okay, so next is to input my measurements. The bust circumference I'm working with, divide by 4. Okay, my bust divide by 4 plus 3 inches for sewing allowance, 3.5 inches rather, 3.5 inches for sewing allowance. And on the waistline, I'll mark my waist divide by 4, waist divide by 4 plus 3 inches, 3.5 inches, whatever allowance you're using. Okay, but I made use of 3.5 inch, 3.5 inches for sewing allowance, and then the allowance that we are going to cut out here, this one here, the 2.5 inch or 3 inches, whatever allowance that you are going to cut out, you replace it back. So that is what I'm doing. I replace the dart I am going to cut out here. Okay, If you are cutting out 3 inches dart, 2.5 inches dart, you replace it. So on the under bust line, I'm going to mark my under bust divide by 4 plus this dart that we are going to cut out here. Okay, and then 3.5 inches sewing allowance also. Okay, so I'm going to connect all this together and then I will cut out. You connect together like this. Okay, so this is what we have for the front. This is the shape. So my client is on the small size. Her bust is 32 or so, so she's very small. So I will be cutting this out and then we'll go ahead and cut the back panel. So you can add 1/2 inch extra to the neckline. So guys, I actually forget to do something. I forgot to recover my armhole, which I'm going to do right now. So thank God I remember on time. So I'm going to recover my armhole now. So after extending the princess dart upward, you recover your armhole like this. Okay, you recover your armhole. So that is what I just did now, and I'm going to cut that out. Okay, so I'll be cutting out the dart area now. So here is the neckline, and this is what we have after cutting. Our princess dart off shoulder bustier is ready. Okay, so now we are going to go ahead and cut the back panel. So before cutting the back panel, what I'm going to do now is to notch my under bust and the bust point. So you hold this way and then you notch the under bust, and I'll also notch my bust point. I'll do the same thing to the side panel. I'll fold into two like this and then I will notch. Okay, just a little bit of notch. Don't cut too much, just a little. And I'll also notch the bust point. Okay, so I'll notch the bust point also, and we are done. I'll set this aside and then I'll bring the back part. So like I said before, the front and the back are the same length, okay, and I also cut the same measurements. So I will still mark my zipper allowance, but before then I'll just go ahead and mark my chest line, which is 7.5, my bust point 9, and my underbust. I'm not supposed to mark my underbust, but I made a mistake. I marked it. So you ignore the underbust and mark your waist line plus 1/2 inch. Okay, your waist plus 1/2 inch, your waist measurement plus 1/2 inch for joining allowance. So here is the bust line and here is the chest line. So ignore the underbust line. So now I'm going to mark my zipper allowance of 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. Okay, and I'll connect that with a straight ruler. Okay, so next I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurement. Okay, let's mark our neck width. The same thing I marked on the front panel. So that's the same thing you will use. So on the chest line, I'll mark my bust divide by 4 plus 2 inches for sewing allowance, and then I'll connect to the neck width. Remember the neck width we did minus 1.5. Your shoulder divide by 2 minus 1.5, and make sure your measurement is starting from the zipper allowance area. Okay, make sure your measurement starts from the zip allowance side. So now I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurements. Okay, so every measurement should start from the zip allowance line, 4 inches, exactly the same way I marked the front panel. Your nipple divide by 2, nipple to nipple measurement divide by 2 plus half inch. So you connect straight like this. And then in between, I'm going to mark 0.75. I want to use 1.5 inches for the dart. So 0.75 is what I'm marking there now. And I'll connect like this. That is if you don't want to make use of princess dart. If you want to sew your dart like this, so you just sew in your dart like so. Okay, if you're making use of princess dart, you do the same 2 inches or 2.5 inches, and then you connect like this. You can use your free hand, you can use your curve ruler, you connect like this. Okay, and that's all. You just come down a little bit by half inch and connect also, and extend the half inch just like the front. But I'm not making use of princess dart for this back panel. I'll be extending my own to the neckline. Okay, so now the neck width I want to work with, I'm going to use this chest line for my neck width. So I'll just connect with a curve from the neck width to the neck depth. So the neck depth I'm working with is my chest line. The chest line is 7.5 inches. Okay, so now I'll just extend this dart upward. Okay, as you can see, it's 7.5 inches my neck width. So for this dart, you can just sew it like this, but if you want to cut it out, you extend it upward. So I want to cut out my dart. I don't want to sew it and it will remain in the cloth, so I want to cut it out. So I'll extend it like this upward, and I'll also extend from that waistline. You just extend it upward to the neck width, the neckline, sorry, like this. So that is what I want for my dart. So ignore this princess dart, I'm not working with it. Okay, so ignore it, ignore this, I'm not working with this. Okay, so now we are going to take our measurement. My waist divide by 4 plus 1.5 inches for the dart. This dart here is 1.5 inch, and then plus 2 inches for sewing allowance. Ignore the under bust line. So I'll move to the bust line. My bust divide by 4 plus 1 inch. Okay, plus 2 inches, sorry, for sewing allowance, and then you're going to connect to the waistline like this. Ignore the under bust line. Like I said earlier, I made a mistake to mark it, so I connected upward. So now to eliminate my zipper bulge, I'm going to mark half inch inward like this, and I'll connect that to the waistline, to the bust line like so. Okay, and then I will come inside again and mark that half inch. I'll replace it like this, and then I'll connect to the waistline, to the bust line also, like so. Okay, so I've connected, I've replaced the half inch, and on the side here I'm going to replace this half inch I'm going to cut out. I'll replace the half inch here like so, and I'll connect to the bust line also, so that we'll not have any shortage after sewing. Okay, so now I'll be cutting this out. Here I'm cutting the neckline also. Okay, cutting the neckline, and this that I mean the zipper budge side, and then I'll open up the zipper side like so, and I'm going to cut the side like this, the armhole. Okay, and then here I'm going to open this up, cutting out the darts. Okay, so guys, we are done cutting. This is the back panel. Okay, the back is ready, and here is the front panel. So now we are going to start sewing. So guys, I've gone ahead to cut my breast part. What we just do is from the top part, you come down by 1 inch. Okay, you come down by 1 inch, and then your breast part should stop on your under bust. Okay, and for this side, the width I made use of is 5 inches, and for the center front, it should cover the whole center front. Okay, so I'm pinning this now, and I'm making sure all the notches match each other. You place them, your bust point should match each other, and then the under bust should also match each other. So it's always better to pin before sewing, especially for beginners. It will make it easier for you. So this point I'm holding, just come down from there by 1 inch or 1.5 inch. That is where your part is going to start from. Okay, and then it should stop at the under bust. Sorry guys, I lost the clip on where I was cutting it. I actually videoed it, so I'm going to make a detailed tutorial on how to cut your pad for a princess dart bustier. Okay, so now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and sew. So I'm just showing you guys how it's going to be easier for you, for beginners to sew. So I will take us to the sewing machine, and then we'll join this together. Okay, so you pin the other side the same way also. Okay guys, so here I'm going to start sewing, and I don't like pinning though, but for beginners pinning is better for you. Okay, you start by pinning. So for here I did not pin because I don't really like pinning. I know my way around. Okay, so I'll just sew like so, and when you get to the underbust, you raise your footer and you shift it, and then you bring it down again. You continue sewing. Make sure the notches are matching each other. Okay, if you have any difficulty, just raise the footer, and then you shift it, and then you place it down, and then you start sewing again. Okay, it's very easy to sew if you are careful. Okay, so I'm done sewing this other part, and then we're going to go ahead and sew the other one. So here is the other one. I'm removing the pins. Okay, I don't like using pin but for beginners you can try using pin. So I'm sewing with 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'll sew. When I get to the under bust area, I'm going to lift my footer. I lift my footer, and then I shifted it, and then you start curving. So it's okay if one side is a little bit bigger than the other. It's okay. There is no much problem with that. So if one side, especially the side panel, is a little bit bigger than the other part, there is no cause for alarm. Okay, so that is what I'm doing. So this other part is a little bit difficult because you're not seeing the curvy area very well. So as you can see, the other side is a little bit bigger than the center. Okay, there is no problem, it's okay. So here I'm done joining this together. So what you do next is to notch. Okay, you notch this, you notch. So here it is. I'm going to notch the inside right now. So you see it's a little bit bigger, the side panel. There is no problem. So you just notch this. Okay, so you're going to join the back panel, and then you just turn this, you join your lining. Make sure you cut your lining the same way as you cut your panel, your Ankara or any fabric you're working with. Cut your lining exactly the same before you start sewing. Okay, so I just thought to show you guys how to sew the bustier in case some of you don't know. Okay, and then you iron the inside. You iron the inside like this. So my iron is not plugged. I'm just showing you what to do. You use your tailor ham. So here is the back panel. I also joined the back panel together, and this is what it looks like. So the lining is also the same thing. And then after turning with your lining, you bring your skirt. If you're making a gown, this is the lining. Okay, like I said, you cut exactly before you start sewing. So you match the lines together, and then you turn the neckline, top stitch on your lining, and turn the sides. The same thing goes to the back. This is it. You match them together, turn the neckline, the side, and the zipper allowance area. So I've done that already, and I'll just show you guys what it looks like after doing. Okay, so I'm just trying to repeat myself. The other panel, you also turn the neckline, the side, and that's all. Okay, so here guys, I'm done doing that. I'm done turning with my lining, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so I'll just get my skirt, my front panel skirt, and I'll sew the waistline together. The back panel also, I'll sew them together, and then I'll make my sleeve and fix. So this is what I'm trying to show you guys. You top stitch on your lining so that it will lay flat. You top stitch on your lining after sewing the neckline before you now sew the sides. Okay, so that the neckline will be flat, will not be coming out. Okay, so I did the same thing to the back panel also. I sew the neckline, I top stitch and sew the zipper side and the sides. Okay, so here it is. The back panel is ready. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to fix it on your skirt in case you still don't know. So this is the back panel skirt and my front panel skirt. So here I'll just place my skirt like this, and you're going to place the front panel on it. So I've already turned my skirt with the lining. You place this way, and then you join, notch the midpoint of your top and the midpoint of your skirt. So guys, this is the end of this tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching, and like, share, and subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in my next tutorial. I love you guys. Bye.